Welcome to Real Talk, the show where we look at issues facing our youth. My name is Omen Kongo, and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about an issue that is very pressing to me, but very pressing in a lot of communities across the country. Black men. Black fatherhood, black manhood, representations of black men on television, in our educational system, in politics. And I have a very special guest today who's going to talk to us about that. He's an author, he's an MC, he's a scholar, he's a father. He goes by 5 Mics, and his name is Mike Andrews. Mike Andrews, welcome to Real Talk.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm excellent.
Good.
Before we go anywhere, what and who is 5 Mics?
5 Mics. Well, I still... have a hard time. Not have a hard time. It's interesting for me to hear that because 5 Mics is just who I am. I mean, 5 Mics and the Mics. My name is Mike Andrews, and it's husband, father, writer, entertainer, and MC. Okay. And it's kind of in order of, I guess, most importance to me. So I'm a husband first. I'm a father. I couldn't be a father if I wasn't a husband. So a lot of people are like, oh, you put father first, but husband, father, writer. Entertainer and MC, and those are just the things that I do, and those are kind of the ways that I see the world as a husband, as a father, as a writer, and that's who I am.
Now, we've seen so many stats over the last couple of years that close to 70% of black households in America do not have a father. Yeah. Is that why it's so important for you to put that husband and father first? Because there are many people out there who are fathers who say, well, I'm all about the business, I'm all about the entertainment side, or I'm all about, if they're a lawyer, I'm all about the legal side. That's what I'm married to first and foremost. But it seems like you were intentional about putting the husband and father part first.
Absolutely. Those are the things that especially with black men, you just hear such little emphasis about those two aspects of their being. Being a husband, being a father, how important those are to the community. And I think now, within the last 20, 30 years, there are a group of boys and men that literally have been forgotten, that haven't been addressed properly, appropriately from the media, in education, across the board, politics, even in sports. I mean, as much as you see the numbers of African American, black athletes, there's still a villainization of athletes in certain sports and certain arenas. So I just, being a husband and being a father are most important to me, and those are the areas where I try to be most intentional. And as much work as we all put in our schooling, as much work as we put in our professional lives, I try to put as much work into being a husband and being a father and really being a foundation for my family. So that definitely intentional, and I want more people to put those things first and be vocal about it. Because people will put it first in their families, and that's great. But I want people to put it forward. That's why I really respect people like Will Smith, who is always out with his wife, and you see him, and you see him parenting, and you see him, as his children are accepting awards, he's smiling and shedding tears in the audience. I think that those kind of images are what we need to see in the family and the community.
Now, that leads to a problem that I have. You mentioned Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. I respect that and agree 100%. But let's take the flip side.
Right.
Beyonce and Jay Z.
Right.
Let's go to the music. And we'll talk about it. They said black manhood. We see guys like Jay Z, who we both respect and appreciate for the skills and other things that he's done.
Absolutely.
Part of his career has been built on misogyny.
Right.
We could say that safely. But now that he's married and in a committed relationship, doesn't speak about that. Yeah. For me, that's a problem. Is that not a problem for you?
I think it is. I mean, and I'm not famous, and I'll never be that famous. So let me put that out there. But I've heard them both say recently that they don't want their relationship to be in the media.
But not even a song about being married?
Yeah, not even holding hands, nothing. They kind of travel through life as business partners. That's what it seems to be, from me, even as fans of both of them. But I would really enjoy to see them publicly talk about their love for each other, or not even on some famous stuff, not even Beyonce and Jay Z, but as Beyonce Knowles and Sean Carter, the girl from Houston and the kid from Brooklyn, New York, and how their worlds intertwine, and coming from a purely humanistic realm, not even them being superstars. But at the same time, I do understand, wanting to keep their relationship out of the media, and you know, should they take the route of someone like a Will Smith or like you know, all the other celebrities that are using their marriage, Lamar Odom, you know, like those guys that have shows about their marriage and relationship. Maybe their marriage and relationship wouldn't be as strong for what they need it to be. So I see both sides, but it would be great to have that kind of relationship, have that be an example.
Now, we're going to get back to the television, the villainization of sports, but I want to get a little bit back more to the five mics.
Absolutely.
What were some of your experiences growing up in New York? Won't hold that against you. Growing up that made you understand the importance of not just a black father, but the importance of strong black men anywhere, whether it's in church, school. What type of experiences did you have as a young person that may be able to help some of the people watching who may not have that strong father figure in their life, but don't realize it may be somewhere else?
Right, absolutely. And that's a great question. And I think for me, you know, I think back to my childhood so fondly. It wasn't, you know, it's not like, you know, a lot of times when we talk about boys or when we talk about people in general growing up in impoverished areas or in urban environments, you know, we think like, oh, we feel sorry for them, we want to go help them. And, you know, for me, I didn't know what a project was. I didn't know I was living in the projects until I was 12 or 13 years old. I just, it was fine. Everything I wanted, I needed. Everything I wanted, I got. You know, there were times when I wanted toys, I couldn't get it. I was never hungry, you know, so it was a great childhood for me. But even at a young age, I just recognized that there were so many women around me.
Wow.
You know, and I don't know if, you know, I've always been, you know, my background as an adult is in psychology and counseling and education. So with those fields, I'm naturally very aware of what's happening around me. But even as a child, a 4 and 5 year old, 6 and 7 year old going through elementary school, I just recognized that there's so many women around me. My aunts, my grandmother, my mother, those were my caregivers. My uncles were around, but they weren't in that role as a nurturer, you know, empowering me in that way. They weren't, you know, helping me with my homework. They weren't taking me to church. They weren't doing those kind of things. They served as role models from, you know, be tough, you know, suck it up, you know, put some bass in your voice. But when it came to the things of being a nurturer and being loved in that way, it was all coming from women. And I remember thinking, like, you know, I remember hearing, you know, nursery rhymes and, you know, girl with sugar and spice and nice. I just remember thinking, you know, what's up with the boys? Like, where are the men in this community? And in Brooklyn, I noticed, you know, you would know when the guys went away to jail and when they came back. You would see it. You know, it was always the men. You know, you would see, you know, fights sometimes. You would see, you know, police cars and people taking away men in police cars. And I remember that vision as a kid. Like, why are always guys, boys? You know? And that just followed me throughout my childhood, growing up into middle and high school. And I was just always very aware, you know, when I would hear, you know, there's been a lot of talk recently about female empowerment. And I think from a societal point of view, of course that's important because in our country, females are minorities. Right? So it's in my mind, it's complicated. Because, you know, yes, females are minorities in terms of gender roles and bias and sexism, and I get that. But in the black community, I don't think it's not as cut and dry.
I see.
You know, in my mind. So, you know, as I got older, I just noticed it. It just became very clear to me, and that was just always a focus for me. The light was so bright when my wife and I decided to, you know, we found out we were having a baby. We found out we were having a boy, and that's when everything was like, okay, you know, I'm approaching it from a very intellectual, you know, very intellectual way. You know, we're having a boy. All right, I'm going to be intentional about being a husband and a father. So let me go out and try to find some material. Let me go out and try to, you know, talk to people about how I can be the best father I can be. You know, I'm having a boy, you know, so let me go find out what books there are. Let me go to the library, let me go to the bookstore and figure out. And there weren't really any positive books for fathers. And it just blew my mind. I mean, it was just, they had what to expect when expecting. A very, doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily a gender bias. It's just what to expect when you're expecting. So you read the book, I'm like, all right, I'm going to find out what to expect. What to expect for the first year. Okay, let's figure it out.
Yes.
And I look at it, and the language in the book is directed to, so as a mother, you're going to have to do da-da-da-da-da. Bearing the child, it was just, everything was targeted towards the mother. And out of respect, I understand that.
Yes.
But there was just so few resources for fatherhood. And even the few that you would find, the resources would be, as a father, how can you support the mother? And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like, aren't there any specific challenges or specific things that fathers need to be worried about separate from the mother?
Yeah.
And there just wasn't anything out there like that.
Wow.
And that just struck me so hard. And I was like, I'm raising a boy. I want to find out, how to be, at least from an intellectual standpoint. Let's find out, what's the research? What are people saying? What are the best things? And it just wasn't there.
Do you think America hates fathers? I'm thinking most of the TV shows, the father's an idiot. Al Bundy, Homer Simpson, Family Guy.
Yeah.
Most of the commercials, the fathers are like the kids that the mother has to take care of. Do you think America hates fathers? And if that's so, are there greater ramifications for the black community?
I don't want to say Americans hate fathers. I think fathers are so undervalued in general American culture, but in black culture, in certain aspects of popular black culture, the father is not even existent. It's not even addressed. So there's different phrases and different even passages in the Bible where it says it's like, it's better to be hot or cold rather than lukewarm. You know what I mean? So it's better to either love it or hate it, but it's even worse when it doesn't even exist to you. And I think that in aspects of the black community, the father doesn't even exist.
Wow.
It's like it doesn't even, you don't talk about it. It's perfect. I'm a big social network, junkie, as you probably know. So, a great snapshot to look at is on Father's Day and Mother's Day and how they're represented on Facebook. Right? So everyone on Facebook is changing their profile pictures, putting pictures up of their mom, and me and mom, oh, I love my mom, mom's the best, post this if you love your mom. And then on Father's Day, it's like maybe 3 or 4 people. And it's always the caveat.
I never noticed that.
It's always the caveat, like, on Mother's Day, it's, women are the best, women, praises be to all the women that are moms. And then on Father's Day, it's always, shout out to the good fathers. Wow. If you're a real father, if you're a real man, happy Father's Day to you. My father is and then it goes into the... So it's just, it's almost as if the father role is unneeded, unnecessary. And it's alarming to me as a father, when I go to things for my son's school, or I go to his basketball practices, or his taekwondo, or stay after school for the PTA, or whatever it is. When I show up, sometimes people are looking at me like I'm the help. Can I help you, sir?
And on that point, I want to come back to that because we're about to take a break because we're talking particularly about your son. Yeah. And when we come back, I want to talk more about the youth and the lack of this presence and how that affects them.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with more Real Talk.
Hey, how's it going?
Sir, are you okay?
What? Oh, this? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it'll go away.
Go away? What, sir, that can't be good.
No, it's cool. Really.
Do you want a napkin or something?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this. So why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately. Because time lost is brain lost.
Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we look at issues facing our youth. I'm here with 5 Mikes, Mike Andrews, and as I said, you are a scholar. You have your master's in counseling and psychology. So I want to go back to the point we left off on. You said you're going into places like school and other community events, and people aren't even expecting a male to be there, much less the father. Psychologically, what type of impact does that have on the community? When we talked about kids not seeing fathers, but communities not seeing fathers.
Right. I think it has a a huge impact on the community. I think there's a huge impact on the children. You know, when they see the father being questioned, or even if they see other families and the father's not represented, it almost makes them feel like, can mommy come? You know, can mommy be there? I think that has a huge impact, and it's almost like a a cycle. And in certain, we talk about the cycle of poverty, the cycle of education, the cycle of everything. Things move in cycles. So if that's happening in certain communities, and that behavior, when the father is present, isn't being reinforced, then that's going to do one of two things. For a resilient father like myself, you know, that kind of knows better and understands the psychology of it, I'm going to say, I don't care. I'm going to be there regardless, whether you expect me there or not. But a lot of times for fathers, you know, for my friends, for people that might already feel kind of, you know, I shouldn't be here, you know, they're going to be like, I'm not going.
Wow.
I'm going to say, I'm going to back out. You know, that's your thing. You know, honey, you do the school stuff, I'll do the sports stuff, and everything will be fine. And that's a cycle. That's how the cycle keeps on going. But I think, you know, the good thing that I see now is that for a lot of young fathers, you included, myself, a lot of friends in our circles, I'm seeing fathers being more involved. I'm seeing fathers that don't care about that stigma. You know, fathers are going to take their daughters out to the baseball game and to the PTA meeting and grocery shopping, and kind of serving as fathers, not just being the mother's helper, but fathers being fathers.
But aren't we sort of have our backs against the wall? Because, I mean, look at the multimedia today. I mean, yes, we have a black president, but most young black males, 15 and under, aren't spending their time watching CNN.
Right.
So when they're turning on the TV, they're seeing Antoine Dotson, who got famous on YouTube off of a police report and was performing at the BET Awards. They're seeing, like you said, growing up, they're still seeing men being incarcerated. They're still seeing many images on television of men glorifying the sex, the drugs, and violence, and we know there are alternatives, but these kids don't know. So it's like our backs are against the wall. How do we counteract? Can we counteract this media glorification of the thuggish, sex-crazed black male?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough. And I've always been, you know, in terms of the kind of father that I wanted to be. I want to present the world to my son, to our son. I want to, you know, I don't want to be completely sheltered, like, oh, you can't listen to the radio because there's too much crazy stuff on the radio. You know, you can't watch TV. I want to present a very balanced world. But we can't watch the news.
Wow.
I mean, any parent, but specifically with a black son in a black family, in the morning, our routine is we come downstairs, we get ready for work, everyone's watching the news. We can't watch the news literally from about 6:30 to 8 o'clock. 90% of the representation of black people is so grossly negative that it would be extremely difficult to explain that to our son. Now that he's 5, he's starting to understand skin color and, you know, daddy's brown, and he says, you know, white people are silver. You know, in his mind, daddy's brown, you know, my teacher is silver, and, you know, he has red hair. You know, he started to notice difference. You know, how can I show him the news when they're villainizing President Obama in the political segment? You move over to entertainment, and it's Antoine Dotson, it's sports, it's Michael Vick, it's Plaxico Burress, it's Barry Bonds, it's Tiger Woods. These are all multi-million-dollar athletes in terms of their worth that have done amazing things for their sport, and they're still villainizing them. Now, all sports figures get villainized, regardless of color, but maybe I'm extra sensitive, but when you look at the way that Michael Vick was villainized and Plaxico Burress was villainized, Tiger Woods, Barry Bonds, Michael Jordan, I mean, LeBron James, who, you know, made whatever decision for whatever reason, and they're still villainizing him. Kobe Bryant, I mean, you can't, it's really hard to do. Then you go over to education, and they're talking about DC public schools, and, you know, they're talking about Michelle Rhee and how she was too too forceful with her changing the system. But then you look at the scores, it's really hard to present a balanced world while looking at what's going on TV.
Not to mention cartoons and lack of representation of us there.
Yeah, it's just it's really scary when you turn on the radio. This is a true story 2 days ago. There's this one of my favorite songs as an adult.
Yes.
Is, as an adult, there's a song by Drake, Rick Ross, Lil Wayne, and Drake, Rick Ross, Lil Wayne, right? It's called "I'm On One," and the song really sing song. It's catchy. It's a nice tune to it. I'm singing it, and Drake is very popular. The line is saying something like, I'm gonna smoke until I feel it. I'm gonna drink until it's done." I don't really give a blank, and my excuse is that I'm young.
Wow.
But I'm only getting older. Somebody should have told you I'm on one. That's the lyrics, right?
Wow.
Okay. The next song is "Who Run the World, Girls."
Wow.
I have a son in the back seat. So the Drake song comes on. I want to hear it. I have to turn it off.
Yeah.
I can't send that kind of message. I'm gonna smoke until it's done. Okay, that's not appropriate. Okay, turn the station. "Who Run the World, Girls." Very catchy tune, the jingly beat, Beyonce.
Yeah.
And my son's singing "Who Run the World, Girls." I don't want him thinking "Who Runs the World, Girls."
Yeah.
Maybe if I had a girl, but even still, I don't know. So radio's out. We're listening to the kids channel. And that so it's just a really sticky situation. Antoine Dodson, look at there are I can't think of one purely positive example of a black male figure in public media, in popular culture media. Bill Cosby even, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Barack Obama. These are all great men, have done great things. But whenever they're presented, it's always the good and the bad. And the bad is usually focused on last and most strong. It's the strongest voice. So it's just unfortunate, and I really think that it's going to have to come from regular people, people in the community, teachers, uncles, fathers. It's going to have to come from us that are going to really have to change the way that the media talks about us, the way that the media represents us. BET is under such scrutiny because everything that they do is heightened. Everyone's looking for, okay, it's not going to be NBC, it's not going to be CBS, CNN. BET is going to be the savior. It's going to be where we go to for positive black role models. And even on BET, it's
almost worse.
So
what would you say to a young person who may have felt throughout his or her life that they haven't had a strong black male presence in their life, and they feel like they need that presence? Is it hopeless for them? What would you suggest for those young folks out there who may be looking for that positive presence in their life, but may have given up because it's not the father figure who's there in their household? Right.
I think that it's not all hope is not lost. I think a lot of it's going to have to be intrinsic. It's going to have to be internal. It's going to have to be a decision that's made. Like, I'm going to be the difference. I'm going to be the role model for my niece and nephew, for my brother and sister, for the people in my family. I'm going to recognize the difference between what is positive and what is negative on TV, and understand that all of those commercials and channels are business. All of those things are business. It doesn't necessarily represent the truth. But a lot of times they say that what is seen is truth. My truth is my reality. But I don't think all hope is lost. I just think that it has to come from the community. It has to come from. It's not necessarily going to come from Jay Z and those guys. And I think that they do more than we know, but the coverage of what they do is not going to be on the 6 o'clock news.
That's right.
It's not going to be on CNN. It's not going to be on Fox News. It's not going to be on those things. So I just think it's going to have to be a balance. It's going to have to be coming more from the community, and it's just tough. It's a tough road.
Now, how do you? We talked about the husband-father side. There's 3 other sides to 5 mics.
Yeah.
How do you use your skills as 5 mics to provide some of that balance? Because there's probably a lot of people out there want to hear from you directly now that they're seeing what you do. What do you bring to the people?
Absolutely. Writing. And you've helped me, of course, helped me discover that. But when I started noticing that, some of the resources, the materials I was looking for weren't out there for me and my generation to hear it in my voice, I started writing about it myself. I'm writing a book in my mind. I'm also I'm writing things down about different experiences I have.
Yes.
With the hopes of creating a book for guys like us. That might be the title of the book. A book for guys like us. Just regular men that work hard, that are educated or not, that are looking for more of their voice reflected for their families. But I write all the time. I speak to schools. I just spoke this past weekend to an organization in D.C. called the D.C. College Access Program, to a group of about 600 students and families on their way to college. I spoke a few weekends ago to a church group in the area just about going to college and education, and I think that just my presence is going to help that.
Yes.
So that's what I do personally, and I'm just always trying to be an example. And whatever environment I'm in, I'm going to be unapologetically who I am. So a lot of times, this is another, I don't know how much time we have, but another example is I am the one in our family, the way it's set up, to pick up our son from daycare, right, from school at the end of the day. 6 o'clock, I have to be there. I don't care where I am, at 6 o'clock, I have to be to pick up my son. And in certain jobs that I've had, it's not really said like, what? You have to be to pick up your son? But certain signs. There's certain things like, Mike, you're leaving already? It's 5 o'clock. And why I say unapologetically is because there was a certain time when we were new parents and I would feel bad, like, I would always say, like, you have to go pick up my son. I would kind of apologize for it. But I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm out. Peace. I'll see you tomorrow. Call me if you need me.
And that's what I love about being unapologetic. And I think that more people need to hear that. More people need to hear the message as it relates to what you're bringing to schools and churches. Where can people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I have a website, www.5mics.com, and it's just FIVEMIKES.com. I can be reached on Facebook, of course, Facebook.com/5mics. And those are the places where I am all the time. You can hear about what I'm doing, where I'm going to be, and there's even PowerPoints of just some of the messages that I put out there, videos of some of the messages I put out there, and I'm just always trying to get out as much as possible and come talk to people.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and talking to us on Real Talk.
No problem. Anytime.
That's going to do it for another episode of Real Talk. My name is Ome Congo. You can email me at realtalk@omecongo.com. Remember, our youth are 50% of our population, but 100% of our future. Let's make sure we take care of them. See you next time.